All right, so let's go ahead and look at the other one. 335. This is another dance, I believe, by Haydn. Should be 335, German dance. Um, what do you know about Haydn?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, Haydn was great. Um, Franz Joseph Haydn, also called Papa Haydn. Haydn is um, born in Austria, but he spent a lot of time in Hungary, and he was important because he was employed by the Esterhazy family at their estate. He was a court musician for this wealthy family. And the nice thing was that it paid him very well. Um, he was a friend of Mozart, Beethoven. Um, if you ever get to go to Vienna, you can go visit his house. It's a museum. And in this museum, along the stairs, it shows who Haydn entertained at his house. It's kind of a neat thing. If I can find it real quick, I'll show you. It also has a nice layout of how Haydn spent his time, what his daily schedule was like. Let me just pull that up real quick for you. It's a fun little museum. Also, in the very back corner of the museum, there's a place where they have some things that belong to Brahms. Brahms's house was destroyed in a war. And so they have some of Brahms's personal belongings in the Haydn Museum in Vienna. Uh, let me can I just have a little slideshow for you, showing you when I went there.
Sure. History is fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes it a little more real. I think the piece it puts a person behind it. So this is Heidengasse. Gasse means street, and this is where the the museum is. Now in Austria, you can see these red and white flags over here. If there's a museum that's run by the city, it'll have those flags there. So this is the House of Hayden. He lived here from what does that say? That's not right. 1976 is not right. This is what we want. He lived here from 1797 to 1809. Um, there's a photo of him with his wig. There's a few photos of him at the house. This gives you a little timeline for Haydn. He was born March 31st in Lower Austria. And they moved into this house in 1797. But you can kind of see a little timeline of his life. He was a choir boy at the cathedral, St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna. Did his music studies. He married Maria Anna Keller, and they don't have any children. And they didn't really get along. They both had their own house. And I think there's something that said that Haydn liked his sister better than her, but I can't remember. I'd have to look that up. He became the director of music for Count Marzen. Composes his first symphonies at that time period. And he became the first court conductor for the Esterhazy prince, and they treated him really well. Everyone really loved Haydn. When Prince Nicholas I died, Haydn moved to Vienna. And he also traveled to London. All right. So, whoa. That's weird. So he was the first to recognize the great potential of the symphony and the string quartet. And those are still in the musical repertoire to this day. So when the prince died in September of 1790, he left his son Paul Anton a massive pile of debts. The new prince immediately gave notice to the orchestra and opera personnel. The dismissed musicians faced disaster. Only Haydn received the annual pension he had been promised of 1,000 florins. He immediately set off for Vienna, and at the end of the same year, 1790, on to London. So this was a city of music, Vienna, around 1800, but no metropolis, it says. More pictures of Haydn. I think that one picture was the prince. But I want to show you. Oh, this is the cannonball from the French Wars. I think this is the one that destroyed. Well, it's during the Napoleon Wars. Let me just show you. This is pretty cool. It's It tells a little bit about their marriage. Although Maria Anna Haydn was 3 years older than her husband, she thought of the house as a widow's residence. When they first moved in, she was in fact around much more than Haydn, who lived in Eisenstadt during the summer months while spending the winter in a small apartment in the center of town. Only when his wife died in 1800 did he really take possession of the house. The house had now become his widower's residence. But who else lived here? Who was in the house during the day? With the exception of a great niece who lived here for a short while, the family was wholly absent in the final years. Haydn's siblings had predeceased him, and their children lived in the country. The house was enlivened up by up to 6 servants who acted as a substitute for the family. Above all, his cook and his servant and copyist. Haydn's will also reflects this close relationship with his servants. With the exception of the sole heir and nephew, Matthias Froelich, the 2 servants received more than the remaining 16 relatives put together. So he took care of his servants. And he keeps them in the will here. I want to just show you this part of the museum. This shows who all visited Haydn at this house. So this was a theater director and a producer, another composer and court conductor. Michael Haydn is his brother, who is also a composer. The St. Petersburg court conductor, Sigismund Newcomb, and Antonio Polzelli was a pupil and a composer. You can see that Muzio Clementi, he's a famous composer that wrote a lot of sonatinas you might have heard. Cherubini was a composer, and Dragonetti was a composer. He wrote a lot of double bass material because he played the double bass. Beethoven came to see him at this house. Some other singers. Haydn was Beethoven's teacher. More
Should have started with that, man.
Yeah. Hummel was a pretty famous composer of the time period. Kramer was an instrument maker and a pianist and a composer. Constance Mozart was Mozart's widow, and Franz Xaver Wolfgang Mozart was Mozart's son. They came to this house to see Haydn, and Pleyel, another composer. It says rival. The Esterhazy family came and saw him. More composers, Hummel and Weber. Tomacek. The sculptor that created two of Haydn's busts came. There's a big mystery out there about Haydn's skull. You can see this right here. Like Haydn's skull was robbed and taken, and it's kind of gruesome. So I think that's kind of cool. Makes it a little more real. It's kind of fun you can also see his handwriting.
Well, it's pretty neat that you had a chance to go there and visit these places. How long did you spend?
So I was able to go twice. Once I went when I was doing my doctorate at the University of Iowa. I received a grant for doctoral or dissertation research.
How neat.
And then 2 summers ago, I did a study abroad course with Fresno City College, and I took 7 students and my family all through Germany and Austria. So
Wow.
It was a 20-day experience, and we got to go to several composers' homes. And I hope to do it again, but obviously we got to wait on COVID. So this is one of Haydn's instruments. This is his clavichord. Some of the music that he composed on it. And this is cool because it shows Haydn's typical day, his daily routine. Let me see if I have close-ups of it. In the warmer season, Haydn rose at 6:30 in the morning and shaved straight away. Then he dressed completely. If a pupil was waiting for him whilst he dressed, then the same person had to play on the piano the lesson he had been set. So he kind of shaved and got dressed while his pupil was playing. At 8 o'clock, Haydn ate breakfast. Immediately afterwards, he sat down at the piano and fantasied for as long as he needed to find the thoughts which served his intentions, which he then at once put to paper. At 11:30, he received visitors, or he went for a walk himself and paid visits. The hour from 2 to 3 was set for lunch. At 4 o'clock, he returned to musical activity. He then took the sketch made that morning and put it on a score, for which he took 3 to 4 hours. At 8 o'clock in the evening, he usually went out, but came back home at 9 o'clock and either sat down to write a score or took a book and read until 10 o'clock. The time at 10 o'clock was set for dinner. Haydn had made a rule of enjoying no more than bread and wine in the evening. At 11:30, he went to bed, even later when older. When he was very old, particularly in the last 5 to 6 years of his life, this routine described above was ruined by physical ailments and illnesses. Eventually, the active man could no longer occupy himself. So kind of a different time schedule than what we're used to, right? So in this home office, Haydn may have slept. His guests described the room as a closet, bedroom, or alcove. He probably composed here as well. In one letter, he mentioned a piano in the bedroom. Presumably, it referred to this clavichord. Haydn's pupils also played on the clavichord, while the maestro got dressed in the morning. By modern standards, Haydn's private life appears to have been quite public. Visitors were most impressed, however, by the 40 to 50 cannons which Haydn had hung on the wall here. They symbolized an element of privacy, for Haydn refused to publish them to the end of his life. There's one of the busts. This is Haydn's business card.
Gotcha.
In the final years of his life, Haydn had a special visiting card made, Printed on it were the first few lines of a poem which Haydn had set to music in 1796. All my strength has gone, old and weak am I. Despite numerous invitations, Haydn hardly ever left the house. By way of apology, he sent this self-deprecating visiting card. In 1806, he also sent it to his publishing house. In the same envelope, he put his last string quartet that he had started years before, the third movement of which he could no longer complete. The publishing agent, Griesinger, wrote to his superior, should it not be appropriate, instead of the missing rondo, to have the visiting card printed? Wherever this quartet is performed, one will immediately learn from these few words why it is not complete. So this is actually a forte piano that Haydn used, and they bought it back in 1906. There's the best picture of it. This is Haydn's pencil. Kind of funny. So they got several of his writings, some manuscripts. He was a tough negotiator with money. There's his death mask. All the composer museums have death masks. This is one of Brahms's cabinets. And one of Brahms's pen quills and ink wells and his chair and his table.
I thought it was a coffee pot. It's an inkwell.
Brahms' stuff's in the house. It says, today, Johannes Brahms is a permanent guest in the Haydn House. There are two reasons for this. Firstly, Brahms, born in 1833, was a great admirer of Haydn. And second, his flat in Karlgasse 4 no longer exists, the building having been demolished in 1907. For this reason, it was decided in 1980 to exhibit furniture from the Brahms flat here. Brahms's music represents an important connection between Viennese classicism and Viennese modernism, and there are links to Haydn. He owned the handwritten scores of 6 Haydn string quartets and a song. Moreover, he owned the composer's clavichord, which now stands once more in Haydn's bedroom. And finally, Brahms occupied himself intensely with Chorale St. Anthony, a piece he believed to be by Haydn. It forms the basis for his variations on a theme by Joseph Haydn, composed in 1873. Today, however, it is assumed that the work was composed by Haydn's pupil Ignaz Pleyel. And then if you're there and you have the audio guide, it plays a little portion of it. Haydn had, there's the flags I was telling you about that are on all the Vienna museums. So this is what the outside looks like of the house. Kind of pretty, huh?
Mm-hmm. And big. Oh.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that little tour of Haydn's house and the museum that's there. And now I'm going to play German dance. Let me get that screen back for you. Well, let's talk about it real quick. We got 5 minutes. What key is it in?
G.
G major. Good job. What else do you notice?
We have
Has a few of those articulations.
Yeah, we have staccatos. We have slurs. Good. What else?
repeat sign.
Repeat signs again. Good.
Yeah, twice.
Crescendo.
I'm sorry?
We have crescendo.
Crescendos. Good.
Crescendo.
We have mezzo forte, mezzo piano, forte.
Yeah, so our loudest is forte.
And
Right.
we have cancelled. We have natural sign by.
Oh.
Yeah.
Courtesy accidental there for the sharp that we have there.
Yeah, the augmented fourth.
Where's that?
The C sharp, right? And the second,
Oh,
the
I see
first
what you're
measure.
Oh,
I thought you were
crescendo.
talking about the interval of an augmented fourth.
No, just in terms of
Yeah,
scale
we have a
degrees.
raised fourth, chromatic note. Yep, good. So this is a fun little German dance.
3/4. Oh, look, it has that. What do you call that? Darn it! When it's split, the first and the last measures share the measure.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, we have an anacrusis.
Yeah.
Yeah, anacrusis.
Yeah, incomplete measure to start. We start on
Mhm.
B3. Good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this.
Nice.
Thank you. So those are your three pieces. And then again, if you wanted to select a sonatina movement instead to help prepare you for a proficiency exam at your transfer institution, you're welcome to do that instead. Just pick one and let me know.